I request all speakers to kindly come onto the dais. Shri Jayesh Ranjan, Special Secretary, Information Technology, Electronics and Communication and Industries and Commerce Department, Government of Telangana. Mr. Raman Ramanathan, First Mission Director, Atal Innovation Mission. Mr. Rajan Anandan, Managing Director, Peak 15 Partners and Search. Mr. Mayuresh Raut, Co-Founder and Managing Partner, C Fund. Mr. Abhishek Upperwal, Founder and CEO, Socket Labs. Mr. Abhinav Agarwal, Co-Founder and CEO, Fluid AI. Ms. Chandra R. Shrikant, Deputy Executive Director, Money Control. Shri Abhishek Singh, Sir, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. I request all speakers to kindly stand in front so that we can take a quick group photograph. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, and valued participants. I am Ananta Sharma, a member of the Global India AI Summit team at the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. It is my honor to welcome you all to the session From Seed to Scale, Empowering India's AI Startup Ecosystem. The IndiaAI mission, launched with the vision Making in India and Making AI Work for India, aims to build a comprehensive ecosystem that fosters AI innovation through strategic programs and partnerships across the public and private sectors. This mission drives responsible and inclusive growth of India's AI ecosystem through its 7 key pillars, ensuring India's leadership in AI innovation and application. One of the core pillars of the IndiaAI mission is startup financing. Designed to support and accelerate deep tech AI startup, it provides streamlined access to funding, enabling the development of cutting-edge AI projects. This pillar not only offers financial assistance but also creates an enabling environment that can propel India to the forefront of global AI innovation. Today's session will shed light on the vibrant and rapidly evolving startup ecosystem in India, with a particular emphasis on startup financing. We aim to acknowledge the progress made through existing initiatives, assess the current landscape, and evaluate whether these efforts can sustain a thriving startup ecosystem. We would like to start with a special recorded video message from Mr. Amitabh Kant, G20 Sherpa, Government of India. He really wanted to be with us here today, but currently he is in Brazil for the 3rd Sherpa meeting of G20. Can we please start with the video?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are truly in a unique moment with the ongoing AI revolution. Its relentless advance in capabilities across the board, its increasing adoption by citizens, and most importantly, its potential to redefine the very fabric of industry and society mark this as a transformative era. Today, we stand at the cusp of a monumental shift akin to the greatest industrial revolutions of our past, where steam once powered our engines and electricity later lit up our cities. Just as these technologies did centuries ago, AI is poised to ignite a new chapter of innovation and growth. I will come back to this analogy, but for now, let me draw your attention to some facts about India's current state of AI. The Government of India has committed a substantial 5-year budget of Rs 10,372 crore for the India AI mission. This visionary initiative is designed to fuel AI innovation through robust public-private partnership. Of this funding, approximately Rs 2,000 crore is earmarked specifically to nurture deep technology startups, significantly boosting research and development within these crucial enterprises. India proudly holds the position of having the 2nd highest number of GitHub AI projects globally, accounting for 19% of worldwide AI projects. This demonstrates a vibrant and active engagement in AI development on an international scale. From 2015 to 2023, India has shown remarkable growth in AI skill penetration, leading the world in the expansion of its AI talent pool with an increase of 263% since 2016. In 2023 alone, the hiring of AI talent in India increased by 16.8% year-over-year, reflecting a significant and growing emphasis on AI capabilities within the workforce. Over the past decade, India secured its position 7th globally in private investments in AI, with a total of almost 10 billion invested. Ladies and gentlemen, according to NASSCOM, 70% of Indian startups are prioritizing AI to drive their growth, underscoring the critical role of AI in our startup ecosystem. The AI market in India is on an impressive trajectory, projected to reach close to 10 billion by 2025, growing at a compound annual growth rate of over 40% from 20 to 25. Ladies and gentlemen, insights from the IBM Global AI Adoption Index 23 highlight that 74% of Indian enterprises that have embraced AI are not just utilizing the technology, but actively accelerating their investments in AI over the past 2 years. Now, as we embrace this revolution, the question before us is not merely how we can participate, but how we can lead the world. In our opportunity, it is our opportunity and indeed our responsibility to harness this powerful technology to propel Indian companies to the forefront of the global stage. This is our moment to redefine what it means to be a leader in this pivotal technology and to demonstrate that Indian startup enterprises are not just participants in this revolution, but are driving it with vigor and vision. Allow me to draw parallels from the past technological revolutions and paint a picture of what the AI productivity frontier brings today. I will touch upon a few key levers of AI potential to make Indian enterprise global champions. Ladies and gentlemen, for me, strategic integration, AI-led data analytics, core R&D, ethics, and governance are critical. Ladies and gentlemen, just as in the first industrial revolution gave birth to various industries with the introduction of the steam engine, AI has the potential to revolutionizing multiple sectors in India. Establishing AI integration across sectors like healthcare, logistics, agriculture, FMCG is akin to laying down the foundational infrastructure of steam-based power industry. By implementing AI technology strategically, Indian companies will set the stage for a sweeping transformation, enabling them to innovate and improve efficiencies across the board. For instance, in healthcare, AI can significantly enhance diagnostic accuracy and patient care efficiently, directly impacting patient outcome and healthcare delivery. In logistics, AI applications can streamline supply chain operations, optimize routes, and reduce operational costs, making the entire process more efficiently. However, rather than adopting a generalized approach, the key lies in developing customized AI solutions tailored to meet the specific needs of each sector. Ladies and gentlemen, to ensure these AI applications are effective and efficient, they must be developed and accessed through a cross-disciplinary lens. This involves analyzing your startups and your company's objectives and aligning them with AI capabilities, serving as the guiding North Star. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring your attention to AI-driven data analytics. Its transformative force is akin to the role of electricity during the second industrial revolution. Just as electricity expanded operational hours and revolutionized factory efficiency, AI introduces a new dimension of power, the power of insight that can fundamentally transform business operation across industries. Today, your enterprises have the capacity for enhanced decision making. AI production processes can analyze data sets at unprecedented speeds, enabling swift, informed decisions that enhance business agility. They can provide predictive insights, operational efficiency, personalization at scale, and innovation acceleration. Ladies and gentlemen, to maintain a competitive edge globally, Indian businesses must fully leverage the stack of AI-driven data analytics. This is particularly true for the startup movement of India. This requires us to focus on cutting-edge technologies and talent, cultivating a culture that prioritizes data-driven decision-making and continually adopting your inherent internal processes to advancement in AI. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also now reflect on the transformative impact of the research and development around the microchip during the third industrial revolution, which marked the dawn of the digital age by dramatically enhancing the processing capabilities via computers and other electronic devices. This is important because this seemingly modest component brought about profound efficiencies and functionalities, revolutionizing an era of industries from telecommunication to space industry. Similarly, the most critical element in which our potential to become global champion hinges is core AI research and development. India must aspire beyond merely serving as an application layer for global needs. Our ambition should be to offer comprehensive end-to-end AI capabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, consider the striking fact. India generates 20% of the world's data, yet hosts only 2% of the world's servers. Our current computing infrastructure represents less than 2% of the global capacity, a critical bottleneck in our technological advancement. The central government is set to procure and enhance our computational capabilities significantly by procuring 10,000 graphics processing units within the next 18 months. This strategic investment will dramatically boost our processing power, aligning our resources with our data generation capabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, as you would have seen, OpenAI and Google unveil updates to their large language models. In our case, it's important that the deep penetration of AI into our daily lives sets a new standard of interactivity, compelling industry players to evolve or risk losing relevance in a world that prioritizes personalization and user engagement. Startups like Anthropic and Mistral, along with tech giants like Google and Meta, have narrowed OpenAI's sans Google early lead. These advancements are not just enhancements. They are calls to action for all players in the tech ecosystem to build core capabilities, face risks of overnight disruption in an increasingly AI-driven world. As AI evolves, the real challenge isn't whether it will be capable of handling more complex cognitive tasks. It will be. The critical question is, how will we adopt, ladies and gentlemen? It is imperative that Indian enterprises do not merely consume at the frontier of productivity, we must lead it. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we are presented with a defining opportunity that arises perhaps only once in a generation. Ladies and gentlemen, as nations and industries worldwide grapple with establishing frameworks for responsible and ethical AI, it is imperative that we seize this moment with determination and enthusiasm. It is essential that startups pilot, experiment, showcase, and share best practices. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by drawing a parallel from the ongoing fourth industrial revolution for AI and your enterprise. Just as the advent of digital technology introduced critical challenges such as cybersecurity and data privacy, the AI revolution confronts us with our own set of challenges, including biases, data security, and ethical use. Ladies and gentlemen, the proactive approach is essential for shaping a future where AI is not only transformation, but also trusted and ethical. In this global odyssey, where AI is both the vessel and the compass, Indian companies are the navigators of the Indian economy, steering towards our potential. By mastering these elements, strategic integration, AI-led data analytics, core R&D, ethics, and governance, we can charter a course that not only leads to technological excellence, but also earns the trust and admiration of global marketplace. This journey from our startups to becoming global champions in AI is not just about deploying technology, but about pioneering an innovative path that others will follow, and others from the rest of the world will follow the Indians. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful remarks. Now, I would like to hand over the session to our esteemed moderator, Ms. Chandra R. Srikanth, Deputy Executive Director at Money Control, who will guide us through the panel discussion. Ma'am, the floor is all yours.
Thanks for that. I'm glad we didn't need an AI to do that. Thank you, everyone. And, on day 2 of an event, to see the hall packed, so many people standing at the back, puts a lot of pressure on the panel and especially on the moderator, but we'll try to keep it lively. We will be taking a lot of audience questions because I sort of don't want to hog the discussion, and it's a very good mix of policy makers at the central level, state level, VCs carrying large checkbooks. So if you're a founder in the room, heads up, there's Rajan and Mayuresh, and two very exciting founders who are building two AI startups. We are going to learn more about that as well. And interestingly, one is the foundational layer and one is the application layer. So they've got the mix totally bang on for this session. But thank you all very much. And Abhishek Singh, sir, I'm going to start with you. You know, a lot of things stood out from what Mr. Amitabh Kant said in terms of India's own vision with respect to India AI. He also spoke about the outlay we have, 10,000 crore over 5 years. So, and of that, I think 2,000 crore is, you know, towards funding deep tech. So tell me about the compute as well, because I think we reported last week that you will be floating an RFP for compute very soon, something that everybody is looking forward to. And when can deep tech startups really hope to, you know, get a piece of that 2,000 crore? What's happening? What's the government's plan when it comes to nurturing the AI ecosystem in India? And if you can also give us an overview of what your sense is in terms of where India is today in the global AI race.
Yeah, thank you, Chandra. And as you rightly said, the interest in this session and the esteemed panelists who are there and the audience which is there shows that there's a lot of expectation with regard to what India can do for AI, and Amitabh Kant sir rightfully explained that. Your specific question with regard to the investment, what we have spent, what the government has approved, 10,000 crores can be looked at into both ways. At times it may look at a large sum of money, but when you look at the amount of money countries globally are investing in AI, it's not much.
Anyone thinks it's large.
Yeah, but the more important fact is that it shows the intent of the government with regard to the way we want our AI ecosystem, deep tech ecosystem to go. The government's intent is that whatever are the bottlenecks, especially with regard to compute, with regard to data sets, with regard to skilling, those are the bottlenecks that the government intends to fulfill. And there will a lot of investments will come from the investors and the VCs and all, and that will add to the pool of funds that will be available for the AI startups. With regard to compute, where we are, yes, we have almost 5,000 crores earmarked for providing more than 10,000 GPUs that is required. Because what is felt is that if Indian startups, people who are building AI applications or researchers who are training AI models or doing inferencing or coming up with AI applications or solutions for solving problems in healthcare, agriculture, education or social sectors, if they need compute, they should get access to compute at a subsidized cost for whatever nature that they want. So, as you rightly mentioned, we are in the process of floating the tenders for procuring of compute, but it is not that we will buy chipsets and we will build up a public owned, public run infrastructure. We will want the investments to come from the private players, but the part of the cost of access to that compute will be subsidized by the government, so that those who need the compute, those who are building models or training models or doing inferencing or doing research or working on algorithms, they will be able to access compute at a cost which is much lesser than what they are incurring today, so that we will be able to do more experiments and more of these startups will come with solutions, and hopefully they will scale up in the times to come. And then the other part that is that we are trying to address is the data sets part, because compute is one, and to train model sets you need data sets also. Yeah. So there are some startups who are using synthetic data sets for doing that, but we are also wanting to augment that synthetic data sets with real data sets in Indian languages, so that the Indian foundational model can be built. So there's a whole ecosystem of interventions which is planned with that 10,372 crores, addressing compute, addressing data sets, trying to get a foundational model, addressing the skilling piece, and providing funding support for people who are building applications which can be deployed at scale across the country.
Right. Just a follow-up question on the compute, sir. 10,000 GPUs, again, how are you going to go about this? Will it be NVIDIA plus Intel plus AMD? Are you in talks with multiple players? By when do you expect this to be available for the startups waiting here?
See, what will be required, the way we are building the procurement model is that the users, the end users will decide what they want. So if anybody wants H100s, they will be able to access H100s. If anybody wants MI300s, they will be able to access that. If anybody wants Gaudi 2, they will be able to access that. If anybody wants to use CPUs to build an AI solution, that will also be possible. So sitting in the government, we will not sit into judgment what the end users want. Ultimately, the startups and those who are building the solutions, they are the best judge with regard to how they want to train their models, which infrastructure to use. So we will trust them for doing that. Only thing will be that there will be some checks and balances to ensure that it's not misused, or we don't start getting into voucher trade, that people get subsidized compute and give it to somebody else. So those checks and balances will be there, but by and large it will be trust based. It will be there to support the Indian startup ecosystem, the research ecosystem, to build AI models, and which flavor they want will be decided by them.
Right. Before I move over to Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, based on yesterday, today, the people you met, Mr. Singh, all the delegates you met, the Indian founders, technologists you've interacted with, if you have to give us a sense of where is India today when it comes to AI, are we behind, are we in line, do we have time to catch up? Are we just at the beginning, early days yet, like people are saying? What would your assessment be?
See, like as is well known, we are known as the IT capital of the world, we are known as the tech garage of the world, we are known to have the skill sets, the trained engineers to build AI models. The minister also mentioned that we are number one in the AI skill penetration, several indices and also say that. So our core strength is the AI talent that we have, the workforce that we have. Second strength that we have is the amount of digitization that has happened, especially with regard with India stack and all. We have, and given our population, we have large amounts of data sets in almost every sector. What we need is to invest in the research ecosystem, which would ensure that the researchers are able to build cutting edge solutions, because AI and deep tech requires going beyond just having coding skills. It requires going much beyond that, and to provide access to compute. So we have a lot to catch up with countries like China and the US. We are much behind there when it comes to building AI applications, building products related to AI, but we have the potential, we have the skill sets, and hopefully with the investment that is happening by the government and by the industry, we will be able to catch up in due course.
Great. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, your thoughts, sir. I think I was talking to Ms. Ramadevi Lanka, and she mentioned that you have your own AI summit as well in Telangana, I think sometime in September. But, Telangana has always been at the forefront of encouraging startups, encouraging IT companies, tech companies. You have a sprawling T-hub in Hyderabad. What's your strategy when it comes to AI? How are you going to work with the center on some of these initiatives such as GPUs, data sets, deep tech funding, and so on?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Chandra. Greetings to all the panelists. Greetings to members in the audience. First of all, I'm grateful to the conference organizers for asking us to represent the 28 states of our country. So feel very privileged about this. But let me also mention, see, I spoke yesterday as well in a session, and I mentioned this, that our journey, our engagement with AI in Telangana began in 2020 itself.
When it was the year of
AI, and we had created a framework. So in many ways, there are lots.
Interestingly, this was before ChatGPT sort of burst into the mainstream.
Exactly. Those were early days for the country as a whole, but like many other domains, we decided to be one of the first movers. And we have reaped lots of advantages also. So for example, in the session which I addressed yesterday, when I mentioned that we have supported 150 plus startups, we have rolled out 52 use cases within the government. There's lots of amazement and lots of appreciation for what we have done. So we had introduced our framework in 2020, and when last year when the IndiaAI mission explained their 7 pillars, obviously there are lots of similarities. We also have focused on compute, on making data sets available, on skilling, on adoption in the government itself, on innovation, on responsible and ethical usage of AI, practically everything which the IndiaAI mission contains. And therefore it's very encouraging to see that what we started at that time, there weren't too many benchmarks or references within the country. But the direction which we took is completely aligned with what IndiaAI mission promises. And of course, IndiaAI mission has started now, but as I said, we have been working on it for the last 4 years now. So while high performance compute capacities are available only in a small extent in our country, we have taken some advanced steps. So for instance, again, this is a MeitY institution, CDAC, everyone would know them. So they have compute capacities in Pune, and we were possibly the first state to strike a deal with them to ensure that the startups who are part of our AI program, which is called RevUp, we run it together with NASSCOM. They get subsidized credits to use compute capacity. And now CDAC Hyderabad has also committed 20 petaflops of compute capacity, which will be coming up in the AI city, which as you know, there's a change of government in Telangana. So the new government is very ambitious about setting up an AI city, and everything else that we have spoken about, skilling, ensuring that lots of data that resides within the government, that is made freely available to startups. Also ensuring that some very good social impact, public service delivery focused use cases are rolled out. And yesterday I was in the session where people were speaking about applications and adoption, and some of the use cases that I shared with, they were kind of very amazing. We have, for instance, as you know, in the entire country and many other countries in the world, one of the big challenges is how to ensure that young people do not fall prey to, let us say, drug addiction and things like that. So possibly one of its kind application that we have created in Telangana, which has now supported the enforcement agencies and education institutions to identify early symptoms, and even at a pre-early stage, when you are in a peer group where anything can happen, and to detect through a very simple screening mechanism, provide interventions at the right time. And we have started it a few months ago. Already 536 cases have been identified. And at this stage, whatever counseling and medical support is possible, that is being given. So imagine the impact of this tool, that 536 lives are getting set. And of course, 536 is just till today. I mean, these numbers will go on. Many such other very interesting use cases that we have rolled out. So I see very great opportunity with the help of the IndiaAI mission, with some of the progressive states like ours, to really fulfill the ambitions which Mr. Kant, Mr. Abhishek spoke about.
Are you able to attract AI startups to Hyderabad?
Yes. So as I told you, there's 150 startups who have been supported. We have a program with NASSCOM called RevUp. Now, I know that you live in Bangalore. Your normal mindset is attuned towards Bangalore, but the reality is that people are fleeing Bangalore because they see various other advantages. They see various other advantages in Hyderabad. Of course, the infrastructure advantage is very strong, but certain other things. So for instance, our innovation and startup policy has a feature that if you are a homegrown startup.
This is becoming like a Karnataka versus.
No.
But sir, I always
see
more
you.
than Bangalore, you should watch out for Vijayawada and Amravati. Huh?
Of course. So So one quick point. I don't want to hog all the time. But one very quick point. See, there are lots of young innovators, entrepreneurs in the room as well. Telangana government has a very interesting startup policy. One feature is that if you are a homegrown startup, which means that you are located within Hyderabad or Telangana, and if you have a product or solution which is of relevance to the government, then I guarantee to you that we will procure it bilaterally. We will give you the first work order without any procurement process. There'll be no bids, there'll be no tenders, no RFP.
I hope founders are listening to this.
So
Okay.
this is one very important thing, because you might have developed a very brilliant solution, but typically the challenge is how do you procure the first customer?
Correct.
And we help in that problem by guaranteeing that I will be the first customer. No bids, no procurement. Just bilaterally we'll fix the commercials.
That's a great incentive.
And of course we help you with data, with POCs, with adoption, skills, so many other things.
Great. So I hope founders are taking note. If you're building in Telangana and if it's of relevant to the government, then you don't have to worry about getting your first customer. Just approach Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, no red tape. But Mr. Ramanan, if I can come to you, you were the first mission director of the Atal Innovation Mission. Take us through, how the government, industry, startups, how all of them can work together when it comes to AI, because we are seeing some breakthrough happen every day, every week. People are releasing new versions of their product. It's almost hard to keep up with the pace of change. So, what can how can initiatives such as these help?
Yeah. Thank you so much, and it is indeed a pleasure and privilege for me to be part of this very distinguished panel. The Atal Innovation Mission and many other innovation initiatives that actually started from 2016, they had two primary purposes. and I see the topic here from seed to scale.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that you sow the seeds of problem solving, innovation, and a culture of innovation in our young people, our young population? We have 65% of our people under 35 years old. We are one of the youngest countries of the world. So how do we ensure that we have all the young students empowered to, and also acquire a culture of problem solving and innovation which has sadly been absent in our educational system? It has been mostly rote learning, get good marks, go to university, go get good marks, again go to university abroad, and then join a company, whether it is IBM, TCS, and so on and so forth. Even today, if you see, a lot of corporates are saying they are going to have 100% skilling of AI. And what are they trying for? They're trying to ensure that they are able to meet the global demands, not the India demands. The opportunity for India is, and that's how the Atal Innovation Mission was formed, was how do you create a nation of job creators, not just job seekers? And while AI and all the technology that has come into play in the last 5-6 years, 3D printing, robotics, IoT, miniaturized electronics, augmented reality, virtual reality, and so on, while all of these have come into place, the fact is that our educational system is not enabling access to these technologies. And therefore, the Atal Innovation Mission was formed to say how at the school level you can empower the students by providing access to the latest of technologies through the tinkering labs. So more than 10,000 tinkering labs have been set up in India across the various parts, across all 715 districts of our country. And how do you set up incubators in universities which will support innovation and create a system of startups that are supported not only at the university level, but also subsequently by the VCs and other fundings that are made available. Now, this is a very important part when we talk of seed to scale. How do we ensure that we have access to, and when we are talking of AI, in the tinkering labs, we had a limitation, or we still have a limitation, that you have to set up a lab and make access, have access to those technologies which are there, so that students can have, through do-it-yourself kits, they can start playing with it. But back in 2020, when COVID set in, we actually teamed up with NASSCOM to introduce 2 modules called AI Step-Up module and AI Basic modules, so that all the students who are not able to go to schools are now able to learn AI. And they have Atal Tinkering Labs, and we expose them to use cases and so on and so forth.
What has the response been, sir, to
So
these
the
initiatives?
response today is, if you look every year, Atal Tinkering, I'll talk about the school level first, and then I'll go to the university. At the school level, we run what is called as an Atal Tinkering Marathon every year. In the last marathon that was run, almost 60,000 students participated in the marathon, and more than 6,000 to 7,000 prototype of innovations are created. And they are created by whom? By grade 6 to grade 12 students, like an IoT-based solar panel irrigation management system. That is what is created by a bunch of school girls in Salem, in Thoothukudi. You are talking about the remote coastal parts of our country. So you empower the children, and you empower them with access to technology, access to resources, access to training programs. They will learn and pick up on their own, and they will run with it. And 70% of the tinkering challenges today are integrating AI in some form or the other, either as a conversational AI part or some other, because students are very attracted to the whole concept of AI. Now you go to the universities, 700 incubators have been set up in India today, through AIM and DST, DBT, MATI, everybody together. And there are more than 118,000 startups, as you are aware. As Amitabh Kant said, I travel around and meet with many universities and meet with many startups. 70% or 80% of the startups are integrating AI into their solutions. And mind you, these guys are creating solutions for India. They are not necessarily creating solutions for the overseas market. And that is where the opportunity lies. India is 650,000 villages. We have 715 districts, out of which 115 are aspirational districts. They are the bottom of the pyramid in terms of basic access to healthcare, education, clean drinking water, sanitation, waste management. And in all of these areas, or affordable housing, in all of these areas, AI will play a crucial role in being able to target innovation, entrepreneurship, and startups, and be able to address this huge demand. Some of you may have been familiar, the Prime Minister talked about Atmanirbhar Bharat, and he talked of 5 pillars. And in those 5 pillars, one was the pillar of education, the second was the pillar of infrastructure, third was the pillar of demand, fourth was the pillar of societal good, and fifth was the pillar of technology. And AI and technology, all the emerging technologies is what is going to address all the other 4 pillars. This is a common glue with all the other 4 pillars. If I want smart infrastructure, smart villages, smart districts, smart cities, AI is going to play a very important role in the realization of that. If I want education to be reaching to the remotest part of this country, it's distance learning, AI teaching. You know, why can't we think about AI teachers? We always talk about teaching as a fundamental gap in our, teachers, good teachers we don't have accessible. But if I can have AI teachers teaching in multiple languages and being able to access through distance learning, see the impact that it can have. And similarly, in addressing the burgeoning demand of 1.4 billion people, if we don't fulfill it, somebody else from outside is going to fulfill it. So we have the opportunity of creating all solutions which are AI driven today and affecting every aspect of whatever we do. So I do think that when we talk about empowerment, the initiatives that MeitY has undertaken is phenomenal. To make access computing infrastructure, powerful computing infrastructure to all the schools and all the research universities and so on, we are actually on a level playing field from my point of view. The world is still not advanced. They are using ChatGPT, yes, which is a product of OpenAI and so on and so forth. But still the world is grappling with what solutions can we develop, generative AI solutions that we can develop. And India has an advantage because you have the demand and you have the need. And you have the data which can be generated, but we of course have a gap in the data collection and cleansing and capture, which we need to address. But if we do that, we can definitely be the leaders of AI in the world. And that is where industry partnership is very, very crucial. If you don't have industry partnership, you don't understand the demand and you don't understand the opportunities. And if the startups, all the startups who have succeeded in India has been because they have been able to realize the market demand and the industry demand, and they have been able to address that.
Great insights, and you captured it so well, right from the seed level, at the school level, the role that's being played. And as you said, we are actually working on use case. I think Nandan Nilekani said that India will be the use case capital of the world, and this is one step towards that. But from seed to scale, which is where the venture capital money comes in. Rajan, there is a sense that investors or VCs in India don't really invest in very risky bets, so they don't give the kind of capital that we are seeing in the US that's pouring into AI. I know Peak 15, I think you've invested in Sarvam and InVideo, which is again an AI play. But do you agree with that criticism? Particularly in the last year, post the funding winter, we've seen investors in India, become quite cautious. They're investing in some apparel brand, ice cream brand, clothing brand, very safe areas which will not go wrong. Where do you think the gap is as far as the VC ecosystem in India is concerned? Because the government is giving 2,300 odd crores for deep tech startups, but what are you guys doing?
Yeah, good question. So I think the first thing to keep in mind is, the startup opportunity in India is very different to the US. Okay, the US today, if you go to the Bay Area, it's only about one thing, which is AI.
Yeah.
India is about AI squared. It's all about India and AI. Now, why do I say that? Because, India today is being built, okay? And as India gets built, we need more brands, we need more hospitals, we need more retailers, we need more schools, we need more financial institutions, we need more banks, we need more lenders, we need more insurance companies. And by the way, we need a lot of core technology, we need more semiconductors, we need to recycle, we need more EVs, right? And what you're seeing in India today, and that's the first part of the AI, it's all about India. It's a very different ecosystem, right? It's much more broad-based, it's much more vibrant, it's much more diverse. So I think we need to keep that in mind, because the reality is, I don't know whether you know this, the last big new consumer brand in the US that was successful as a startup was Lululemon, and they were Canadian. Okay? There was a company called Away. They made these cool bags. It trades at 100 million. Mokobara, which is an Indian company, actually is going to be bigger than Away in about a year.
Your portfolio also.
No, but my point is, look, I think it's important to keep that in mind, because you shouldn't sort of look at some of these things that investors are investing in here and say, well, that's not cool, because as long as you're building things that are very useful for consumers and they're willing to pay for it and you're meeting a real gap, that's a very useful thing. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. I only said that because, you know, like, we think there should be many more brands, there should be many more retailers, many more hospitals, many more financial services companies, right? Now let's get to AI, which is what this is about. So first of all, we just within Peak 15 have over 25 AI investments that we've made over the last year, year and a half, okay? And as you know, there's a lot of capital in India. There's over $10 billion of just venture capital dry powder. Dry powder is capital that is raised that hasn't been invested.
Not
And if you look at
uninvested.
venture and PE, private equity, it's over $20 billion. India doesn't have a paucity of capital, right? And today what is happening is that capital is being invested in the best founders who are building the most interesting companies. So in AI, what you're seeing is we're beginning to see a very, very interesting wave of AI application companies, right? So these are companies that are leveraging AI to build useful applications. You know, Ramanan just talked about it, right? Those are consumer applications, they're prosumer applications. IndiaAI is a prosumer company. There are vertical applications in healthcare, in retail, in financial services, in agriculture. And there are also what I call enterprise AI applications for customer support and so on and so forth. So that wave has started. And if there's one thing that our entrepreneurs are very good at, is applications. We are extraordinary at applying technology to solve real problems. So that is happening. The next layer then is what I call AI tooling and data infrastructure. You know, recently we had one of our companies called Atlan. They're in the data governance space. You know, they're just booming. It's driven by the AI wave. They just closed a $100 million round, right? And there's beginning to see a bunch of companies, you know, whether it's, you know, for instance, we have a company called Infosys, right? So they're a serverless GPU platform, right? How do you make costs lower? How do you train models faster? So that layer is beginning to happen. I think what a lot of people sort of talk about, and we have a startup on this panel who will talk about this, is sort of at the core research at the foundational level, right? So that's where, you know, and the discussion always goes back to that. But I think what everybody forgets is there's actually many, many parts of this layer, right? I think that is where you have a company like Sarvam. We have another company called GAN.ai that's actually embarking on, in fact, we were just meeting with Mr. Abhishek Singh before this. They're gonna do something really revolutionary, right? I think we'll hear from one of the panelists here on what they're up to. I think that is where we're you know, we have the fewest number of companies, right? And then you ask the question, okay, at that layer, what do you need? You need more AI researchers. Right? That's what Mr. Abhishek Singh talked about. And we just need more AI researchers. Where are they going to come from? Well, firstly, 20% of the global AI researchers are Indian. They are of Indian origin. We should bring them back.
Where are they sitting? Not in India.
Mostly in the US, right? But we should bring them back. By the way, China did that very successfully over the last 15 years, right? We should bring them back. But secondly, by the way, we have the largest number of STEM graduates. So actually, we have the raw talent, right? We just need to make sure we invest in them over a period of time. And what I can say is, you know, we always tend to get a bit very fast. Something new happens, and we're like, India is behind. Let's keep in mind, India is never first. India is never second. India is never third. But generally, Chandra, we are the best. Okay?
Round of applause for that.
No, but I want to give you real examples because it's easy to say this and then say, okay, like, whoa, really? Let's take digital payments. I don't know how many of you know this. 2015, top 100 companies in the world, India is not on the list. Today, 48% of real-time digital payments happen in India. It took 6 years, okay? It took 6 years. Let's take, I don't know how many of you have been in the US or gone to Europe recently. The mobile phone networks don't work anymore, okay? We were not the first, we were not the second, we were not the third, we were not the fourth, we were not the 15th to get 3G networks. Today, the most advanced mobile telecom network in the world, better than China, certainly significantly better than the US, is in India. So I think when you look at that third layer of AI, what we should keep in mind is we don't have to be the first, and we're not the first. We're not the second. We're not the third. But that doesn't matter. The question is, when the dust settles, and the dust not going to settle for a decade, at least, this is a 10, 20, 30-year game, okay? Are we going to be the best? And the reason we have a shot at being the best, you know why? Because we have the talent. And by the way, it doesn't matter where they are, because that talent actually came from here. The next set of talent, the deep researchers in AI, actually, they're kind of going to come from here. And what we have to do is we just have to keep them here. So what I would say is, a long answer to your question, in AI, there's a lot happening. We certainly have lots of interesting things that are happening. If there's one ask that we have, Chandra, so we have about 16,000 crores of dry powder. Just our firm, one firm. So there's no cost shortage of capital, okay? We just want more people starting up in AI. The last thing I'd say is, are Indian VCs risk averse? So just in the last 15 months, Chandra, we have invested in 2 semiconductor companies from IIT, they came out of IIT Madras Research Park, a green hydrogen recycling company, a space tech company that basically is going to monitor debris in space. I mean, think about this, okay? By the way, there's so much debris in space, it's like driving around in Delhi. So if you're going to launch a satellite, man, boy, it's dangerous, okay? So it's a company called Digantara. So look, so I think this whole thing about, you know, Indian VCs are risk, I don't think so, right? Like, of course, should we all take more risk? Of course we should, right? But the reality is, what I can say is, especially for the entrepreneurs in the room, is make sure you're building something that is truly 10x better and very useful.
No, so
okay, it can't
actually
be
my
10x
follow-up
better
is on
and
that,
not
Rajan,
useful.
you said you have 16,000 crores to deploy and you want to deploy that money. So for entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, technologists, give them 1 or 2 things that they should be doing right to, you know, get that capital.
I think, look, the first thing is, look, firstly, you want to talk about core research. Transformers is not the end game. Everybody's focused on transformers. What's next? Let's talk about that. So you really want to go like there? Well, let's go there, right? And I'm sure one of our panelists can talk about that. But like, let's take a simple idea, okay? You know, Mr. Abhishek Singh talked about this. We have more data than any other country in the world on everything. Why? Because we have 1.4 billion people. You want to take healthcare, you want to take cardiovascular disease, you want to take diabetes, you want to take tuberculosis. Pick your favorite disease. We have the most number of patients in every single one of them. And by the way, this is important in AI because that is data. Okay? Now, that data cannot be useful for AI, right? You have to actually annotate the data. There's a company called Scale.ai. Last round valuation, $14 billion, over $1 billion of revenue. And here's the interesting thing, Chandra. They have over 1 million people that are annotating data all around the world. I think a decade from now, the largest company in the world that is going to help large AI companies train their models should be, yeah. Why? Because 2 out of the 5 largest IT services companies are Indian and 5 out of the 10 are Indian. And boy, don't we have more people that can annotate just about anything? We have more doctors, we have more scientists. I mean, you pick your favorite. By the way, we have more agronomists. I mean, you can like, in every single profession today, outside of China, we have more people. And in most professions, we have more people than China. So you know, like, look, there are so many ideas. And the one thing I would say is just build something that is truly useful. And it has to be 10x better. I think the power of AI is AI allows you to solve a problem not just 10% better, 10x better. So what do we look for when we talk to entrepreneurs? Look, every single day I meet 5 new companies. I have a simple rule. Every day I have to meet 5 new companies. 30 minutes each, okay? What am I looking for? I'm looking for 3 things. One, I'm looking for founders who are very strong. They know what they're doing, right? If you're building a core AI sort of research-focused company, boy, you better have a PhD in AI, okay? You know, you have an MBA from Stanford, ain't gonna cut it. Because, you know, really, you don't learn that at MBA school. But the second thing I'm looking for is, are you solving a real problem? And third, do you have a way to build a 10x better solution to solve that problem? So look, I think we're just getting started, Chandra, and you and I have spoken about this before. This is a long game. And remember, we're never the first, we're never the second, we're never the third, sometimes we're not even in the 10th. But actually it doesn't matter, by the way, whether you start fast. You just want to win. And that we know how to do.
Okay. Mayuresh, as the other investor on the panel, what is your take on how VCs are looking at the AI space? Rajan listed out his criteria when he meets those 5 entrepreneurs every day. But take us through C Fund and what do you look for?
So thanks for having me here. C Fund looks at deep tech for the most part of investing their corpus. I can't resist the Bangalore Hyderabad thing.
Where are you based before I?
Bangalore, obviously. We need more Bangalores. We need more Hyderabad's. Bangalore has been doing the heavy lifting for a while. If we have to look at it from India sense, so the more parties join the game, the better for all of us. 2-3 things, a lot of which I will echo with what Anand just said. There has been a lot of talk of funding winter. I don't see that because valuations have not gone down, especially in new age areas like AI, like deep tech. If you bring a certain pedigree in terms of knowledge and a problem that you're trying to solve, there is still money. Lack of money is not a problem at all. If anything, there is increasing pressure from our investors that you are sitting on capital for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th year, start deploying. And we have maybe a couple of years or so, depending on when you went out and raised. So you will see a lot of investments being made. I think there are several playbooks that have successfully been rolled out, and we don't see that, but let's focus on the positives, which is look at all of us have been beneficiaries of the India outsourcing story, right? And the entire SaaS economy that India has built out is a result of these employees who work some of the most demanding customers on the services side and then figured out, hey, I have something more to offer, and they went on and started building products. We don't see that happening in AI because here's a bunch of young guys, and you wouldn't see that on the deep tech side of things because these would be guys who would have studied for a decade or so and then worked a decade more because these are complex real world problems. Why don't we see that? Because we don't see that kind of research being done. We don't see these guys having done those 10 years of education and then backed up with the corporate experience. I'm not worried about the application side at all. We got enough and more of these things happening. I don't think investors are risk averse at all. It's changing because if you would ask me in 2018, sitting back, would my first 4 or 5 investments from the current fund come in deep tech? I probably would have laughed at myself. I absolutely am sure that the same story will pan out on AI. When was the last time you heard of Indian founders building out a quantum computer in India? There are at least 3 of repute, and it's only going to add to the story and make their jobs easier. We run into guys who are trying to use compression algorithms to make, again, their jobs easier. We run into somebody who's trying to build at the compute level a platform that makes the infra play much more easier. Now, the common story for all of these is these guys want to go and flip to the US. Why? Because India is still at the foundational level, at core technologies, and we don't have the pricing power. But look at what's happening on the first lot of companies which went public and the current lot which are flipping back to India, because it's the Indian markets which are going to give them those multiples, which the US market may or may not, but you have to understand what stage of its economic cycle the Indian economy is. Our growth is ahead of us. There's a whole lot of things that are being done by folks at the policy level, at the government level. I think the easy jobs have been done, which is through resource. The intent, Mr. Singh used the word intent, that was lacking for a long time. I think that is very clear across the spectrum. But the easy job is throw money and resources. The hard jobs is get those people scaled, get those guys equipped to leverage these technologies. So short answer, we'll look at all of these areas. The 3-4 examples that I gave you, those are few and far between. The application part of it is a lot of which we see. But I think all of us in this room, the one thing we should walk away is, and I have a different point of view, that we don't have a lot of, the window of opportunity is not that great. all such evolutionary technologies have had their areas. I mean, AI has been, people have been doing it since the 1960s, right? And woe befall on you if you were doing AI or you were an AI founder till before 2015, before the famous Jeffrey Hinton paper, right? But I think that window of opportunity is decreasing. It's not going to be as long as it has been before. And India has got a lot of tailwind, what's happening at the geopolitical level, what's happening at the policy and the regulatory level, and these young whiz kids. So, I mean, this is something that we have, and we have to grab it with both hands.
Right, grab it with both hands, which brings me to the two founders. Abhishek Upperwal is building a socket which essentially builds LLMs for 22 Indian languages, and you also do research on ethical AI. So, Abhishek, take us through, the difference between building LLMs for 22 languages and just translating the English responses of LLMs into 22 languages. Why is one approach, more efficient than the other? And what's your experience been like building an LLM out of India? Sarvam is one more example. We've also had Kritrim. I think we also have interesting initiatives by IIT Bombay, Hanuman and Bharat GPT. But in terms of the ecosystem support that you get here, how different is it from the Valley? Because in Valley, I think, there was an entire generation of AI researchers who began with DeepMind, and then they went on to the other AI startups. So they have that vintage there. But what's it like been for you?
Right. So coming to the first question of, thanks for having me here. And coming to the first question of why do we need to build an Indic LLM, and what's the primary difference? The primary difference resides, there are a lot of aspects to it, but in a very simple term, we're essentially paying language tax to OpenAI when you are ultimately utilizing or doing some sort of chat with ChatGPT in Hindi, Bangla, Gujarati, any language.
Language tax.
Yes. So what that essentially means is that when these models were built, there was an inherent biasness within these models, and that was not by design, to be very frank. OpenAI is an amazing company for sure, but the algorithm is like that. So for example, the algorithm that is being utilized to train these models at the tokenization layer, it's a frequency-based algorithm, and because we have a large amount of data primarily in English on the internet, the algorithm or the system becomes biased towards English. So what's happening at the core is that whenever we are tokenizing or converting these sentences, hi, how are you, into mathematical form, for English the compression is highest, but for Indic languages the compression is very, very bad. And because of that, essentially the compute requirement that has to go into generating any sort of response from these models go up, and because of that, obviously the cost will go up. So just an example, with GPT-4, I'm not talking about GPT-4o, you were paying 3 times to interact with the model for Hindi as compared to for English, and the cost can go as high as 13 times for low resource languages, say like Assamese or Kashmiri, even if there is certain support in the model for OpenAI, for example. The second aspect, so this is the cost aspect and the efficiency aspect. The second aspect is obviously the context for us Indians. You would have seen that when you were interacting with these systems in any of the Indian languages, they don't understand our context that well. You try to poke the model, do some sort of prompt engineering, even then the model is sometimes biased, will not give you that proper response, because these models or the creators never gave emphasis into creating the data set which is more context aware when it comes to the global south, not just for India, the entire global south. And that induces these biasness within the model. So, so if we have to, say for example, be more efficient, be more context aware, we definitely have to go and build our own sovereign AI. So sovereignty again is another aspect. I won't be touching it because other discussions have already happened over it. The second question, how are we building and how are we going?
You know, if I can ask you, Mr. Abhishek Singh spoke about the RFP for compute, the 10,000 GPUs. So how are you solving for these constraints when it comes, because training an LLM can be very costly?
Exactly. So training can be very costly. Like our estimate is that for a 7 billion perimeter model, we would require essentially close to 2 million USD on the compute side of things. And this is not a one-shot learning that you essentially do when you are doing it from scratch. these are iterations. So sometimes couple of checkpoints fail, you have to backtrack and then start doing the training bit again. On the government part, I would actually say that there has been tremendous support when it comes to the government for supporting startups like us. We are also one of the beneficiary of the CDAC access, CDAC cluster that is available in Pune. But the problem is that the compute availability at CDAC and the affordability is not that great, to be very frank. Like, these systems are still expensive. Unless you are super funded, you won't be able to access these systems. So that is one aspect. I will also touch upon what can be done for the future, because there's something, and I'm glad, I'm super happy that people are talking about research aspect when it comes to building foundation models, because that is ultimately very, very important. Until unless we don't break that particular barrier, we will mostly be executing and building on top of whatever has been done. Say, for example, OpenAI is building, or some Western country is building some model, we will ultimately be building on top of it. But if we have to be at the frontier, we have to essentially invest in research and break that particular barrier. Just to a particular example of how we are dealing with it, how transformers work, it's a very inefficient algorithm, and Ranjan Sen has actually pointed that out as well. And future of Gen AI most probably won't be in the transformer architecture. How our brain works is also fundamentally very different. How our brain works is that we have a linguistic engine which is separate from our knowledge engine. So if tomorrow I learn French, I'll be able to very easily translate my knowledge and will be able to converse with my friend in French using all the facts that I have already learned. These systems never do it. For a new language, I essentially have to show almost all the data set which we have shown to the model in English, for example, and then only model will be able to learn. But there are techniques like transfer learning. And then there are architectural nuances and innovation and research where you break the architecture into different aspects. One architectural component can just work around the linguistic part, and the other can just work around the knowledge part. So it would be like an adapter. You keep on adding new languages to the model, and the model would just retain the knowledge, and you can even separately train the model to actually enhance the knowledge capability of the model. So that is why I see the Gen AI research going forward. There are other things as well, but these are some of the core aspects which will push further. And I believe that no other country will actually look at it, because multilinguality is our problem. It's not the problem of the US. US is primarily English. We have 22 scheduled languages, and we have more than 2,000 dialects in India. So it's the problem that we essentially have to solve, and not the US.
Great, great. Thank you for those insights, Abhishek, and here's wishing you the best. On CDAC, I think you'll have to talk to Mr. Singh separately after the session to sort that out. But from the foundational layer, let me come to Abhinav, who works on Fluid.ai. You know, Abhinav, the one thing that we keep hearing about startups that are working on the enterprise side is that they find it hard to roll out Gen AI use cases because of high compute and cloud costs. So how are you dealing with that? And the second part is that a lot of these use case focused Gen AI startups essentially are described as wrappers that are, you know, vulnerable to disruption. So how do you avoid being a wrapper?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think great question there. So I think every application startup always struggles with this, right? If you're just a very small layer, a very thin layer, right? You're using a ChatGPT API or a Mistral API, and you know all the magic is happening in the LLM, and you're this very thin layer that's kind of making it usable by the end user. Then 6 months to a year down the line, that wrapper is going to get wiped out, right? A Microsoft will launch it free, and AWS will launch it free in their solution, and you're wiped. So that's the application layer problem. How do you make that thicker, right? Then you go downwards, right? You go to the LLM side. That too is having a big level of commoditization, right? The models are becoming open. There are a lot more models out there to choose from. They've become free, and they're getting smaller, right? So the ability for newer entrants to enter is becoming a lot easier. So that space is also getting heavily commoditized, right? What we found is that if you take a hybridization of the two, right? So you take the application layer, say you're solving for an end use case, right? I'm trying to make a manufacturing plant more efficient, right? And you build an application layer for that. But then you build some layer of fine tuning around the language model, right? So you're kind of also doing some thickening over there. That combination delivers two really fantastic things. One, you're delivering great value to the end customer. because they're not just getting another API to ChatGPT to do the same problem in a okay-ish way. They're getting a really powerful solution. And at the bottom layer, you're also ensuring that you're not getting disrupted in the next 6 months to a year's evolution. Now, when it comes to the Indian model challenge, like the localization for India use cases, right? So we do use cases abroad and we do use cases in India. What we found, at least so far, the place where we are struggling with the Indic models is that 1 year down the line or 2 years down the line, most of these models or approaches are becoming agentic. By agentic, that just means that the model thinks through a little more, like it takes like 6, 7 steps of reasoning before it gives the answer, right? So it's not like, okay, who's the Prime Minister of India, and then the LLM just responds back with an answer, right? It's thinking, if it's a more complex question, right? I have this data, how do I solve this problem with these constraints? The model will think through 7, 8 steps. Now, English reasoning is phenomenal at a language model level. At an Indic model, we're still getting to the level where the Indic models are just good at doing the basic prompting.
But not the reasoning that
Right. So the worry we have is that how will they reason in the future, because most models are becoming reasoning based. So our approach to solve it for now has been that we put a translator model in the middle. Let the question come in whatever language. The translator model will send it back to English. Then it reasons all its steps. It calls whatever 50 systems, it looks up a knowledge base, it does whatever. Does those 50 things, translates the answer back. We found that so far has been more effective.
Maybe you should work with Abhishek.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have an interesting conversation post this.
Yeah, into his model. Yeah.
So I think that's it. I think that these two layers, right? One is you hybridize. The other is you solve the use case bloody well, right? You get really, really deep into the end use case. I think when AI is nothing, that's when it's everything. So I'm going to repeat this. When AI is nothing, that's when it's everything, right? Which means that when you put AI in the back burner, right, you're going to solve a problem, right? You're making a plant more efficient, you're automating a customer support center, you're improving a bank's internal operations for SOPs and information, you're having them access data a little better through their databases, right? When the problem is front and center and you're solving for a real problem, and AI becomes one of the tool sets that's enabling you to solve that problem, I think startups will succeed far better and differentiate themselves far better than the ones that say, I want to do something cool in generative AI. So I have this great solution toolbox. Now let me go and search for interesting problems to solve. So I think that's another way we found that it's far better to solve and kind of beat the market. So those are the two kind of layers that we found have been more effective.
Great. I'll just take one question with Rajan before I throw it open to the audience. Rajan, Vinod Khosla recently said that AI compute costs will crash in the future and startups shouldn't be limiting their innovation based on the current high cost of compute. How do you look at the way this is going?
Yeah, look, I mean, in tech, all costs come down. So that, this is absolutely right. But the reality is, look, I mean, entrepreneurs are building companies today, right? So entrepreneurs they have to spend money. So the money is spent today, not the money is not spent 3 years from now. So I think what the AI India mission, Mr. Abhishek talked about this, is super critical, right? Like we have to really make sure that we have I think an interesting goal might be, Mr. Singh, like we have 1,000x more, maybe 100x more. Let's say we have a few hundred really good AI startups today. Like, can we have 100x more startups? And the compute capacity that you're going to subsidize, enables that. I mean, this is a real issue, right? Like, because if you let's say you raise a $3 million seed round, which is a large seed round, right? Not in AI, but in general, it's a seed round, and you have to spend 2.8 million of that on compute, which is sort of the scenario today, So basically, you have to live on vadas, like vada, and 1 meal a day and vadas, that's all. So this is very critical.
Great. On that note, I want to open it up to questions. I already see a lot of hands going up. Okay, can we get a mic, please? Please introduce yourselves briefly and, just ask the question and also who you want, who it's directed to. Yes, sir, we'll come. Yes, please.
Hello everyone, I am Aditya from Joe Stocks. So everyone was talking about how to make India, like AI for India. So what exactly is the data sets required for like you guys or anybody to make AI for India? Like you said, reasoning skills, so or language. So do we need a Malayali person solving a problem in Malayalam, like the language, or like how does it look like for India to make its own reasoning and the language also? And also the important thing I discussed yesterday, it should understand the cultural aspects of India. So what are the requirements for data sets for India that only India can make?
Thanks for the question. So the kind of data set, we typically require two sort of data sets if you have to work only on the language part of things. One is absolutely raw data. It can be even be very bad quality data too, in the sense that, like for example, if you scrap the internet, most of the data sets are not that clean. So language specific data set, not that clean data set, but a variety. That is the important aspect. That is how the model learns. So if I say, for example, I want to go to Delhi, if I can phrase this particular word in say 100 different ways and then show it to the model, that's fantastic data set. And not just show the same sentence 100 times to the data set, the model would just fit perfectly on this but never generalize. That is where the concept of AGI actually comes in, artificial general intelligence, where you learn a concept and not just a particular, say 1 plus 1 is 2, not just that, I will learn counting. And then the model can count whatever you give the model to. So language specific data sets, for example, say you said Malayalam. So we might have to generate a large quantity of pre-training data, which can be scrapped from the internet or it can also be translated and things like that. We have been experimenting with that as well. And the second type of data set that we require is for ultimate fine tuning, which has to be of ultimate quality. And that is where companies like Scale AI, for example, comes in, where you have these like human beings who are annotating data, generating data for different sort of tasks, say summarization, question answering and things like that. But these are very, very high quality data sets. So initial phase, not that high quality data, but a variety. In the second phase, very high quality data, even if the quantity of the data is less. So I also want to point out one thing over here. The pre-training data set, it's practically impossible to generate this data because the amount of quantity that we would require to train like decently large enough model, we can't generate it. Most of this data, even OpenAI and all, have scrapped from the internet. Just as statistics, one of the most famous data sets that is available out there, multilingual C4, has less than 1% Indian language representation as of now. Imagine all 200 dialects, 22 scheduled languages and all, less than 1% representation in the data set. So just imagine the kind of data set that we would require. We have to go from this 1% to almost increasing it to 99 or somewhere 80, 90%, because some of these data set is also like mixed for coding and all, but that's the quantity that would ultimately require, yes.
So like since you have been researching, so can you just estimate the amount of data that would require for, let's say we would discuss 22 languages, but there are dialects also, right? So we would need data on each language. So how much data is required for, let's say, next 10 years?
Okay, so I'll give you an estimate around what people have been training on. So all these models, like for example, Llama 3 came out, that's trained on 15 trillion tokens, but the thing is, there is repetition to the data set when it is shown to the model. So I'm assuming that close to 3 to 4 or 5 billion tokens is what these people have gathered and then might have done 3 epochs for model training part. So that's the quantity of data. That ultimately translates to the entire internet scope of data plus collaborating with some of the news agencies and all to get some proprietary data as well. So the scale is internet scale. Whatever text data sets is available on the internet, ultimately you would require that. Another, again, because you are mentioning the data part, it's not necessary that we actually scale up to that particular bit. I am hopeful that the research would actually take us forward and where the data requirement won't be that much. One of the technical terms we basically require is called transfer learning, where you actually transfer knowledge from one domain to another. Say, for example, I train a model on English, but ultimately I'm able to encode the knowledge in some embedding space within the model, and then I would just have Hindi as a plugin, as a language plugin, and the model would conceptually understand English concepts, but will be able to inherently translate that particular content to Hindi then. So then I don't need that much data, obviously. I can just train my model on English, and then ultimately figure out how can I inherently translate all that knowledge to other languages, yes. So I think that's the way going forward, especially for Indian languages. It's impractical to generate internet scale data in the next couple of years.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, you can start and then.
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Sivas Divedi. I'm a founder and CEO of Prodlib Labs. Basically, we are building AI-enabled drones for infrastructure and agriculture. I had a question with Rajan sir right now because he mentioned like there's a lot of funds everywhere and like a startup had like getting opportunities. So like I will tell about my story. I'm a young startup founder. I started working 21. In next 3 years, I already winning like more than 15 contests, presenting my company outside India. But the problem I'm validated everywhere. And I am also doing POCs, but the problem with when we are talking with the investors, like they are telling like you had a less valuation come after like when you are like a series level, because maximum investment is coming for a series A, series B, series C. But pre-seed investment and seed level investment is very less nowadays in India itself, and which we are lacking right now. And the second question from government side, like because sir, I am working because I am based in Uttar Pradesh, and where we did a lot of consolidation POC project, because as a startup we are only able to do a POC. But when they are contract, like when they are making a contract, they make a contract like for bigger companies, like 110 crore rupees, like 100, 200 crore rupees. The problem with it, we don't have that much of valuation, we don't have runway, like we don't have turnover. And we generally like pointed out we are not able to qualify the project. So that is two things we are lacking right now.
Yeah, look, so we have looked at a bunch of agri-drone companies. In fact, I think again, you have to, like at least the way venture capitalists look at it, okay? You have to have a very strong ROI. I think the issue with drones in agri in India is that farming labor is very cheap. So the ROI that you can deliver is not as compelling, number one. Number two, unlike in, let's say, even China, right, where there's been some very large agri-drone companies that have been built up, you don't have corporatization of agriculture. So the question becomes, see, at the end of the day, you're not building an AI company, okay? You're building a business. The business has to have customers. The customers have to pay you a lot of money, and that money has to be higher than your cost, right? So the challenge with agri-drones, as we looked at it, and look, we've looked at only a few companies we haven't obviously met. So our issue with agri-drones is, right now, farming labor is super cheap. So how much are they going to pay the agri-drone company? So that's, just so that you know, that's the issue. So you have a category problem. So what you'll have to do is, unfortunately, you're in the sort of the situation where you'll have to show that somebody's going to pay you a lot of money. And that money is going to actually deliver an ROI versus the alternative. See, China, by the way, agri-labor has gotten quite expensive now. That's why agri-drones have taken off. In the US, it's super expensive, right? So you have to think about the business economics of that. But like, I think one way to solve it is get some large government contracts. It sounds like you should go to Jayesh, you know?
I can't help someone based in Uttar Pradesh.
But, you know, he has T-Hub.
Yes.
I think tomorrow morning you should get on a plane,
To
move
Hyderabad.
your whole team, got a strategy.
And more importantly, I would like to say that if you are a startup entrepreneur, then follow the advice that Rajan gave. Don't think of being dependent on a few government contracts, because even if it happens, because some subsidy or something, you will not be able to sustain it for a very long time, because subsidies don't last forever. Second, I will say is that you mentioned about the limitations that you have with the tendering contracts, the turnover and all. If you are a DPIIT empaneled startup, then the government procurement norms exempt startups from turnover criteria and prior experience criteria. So there you have an opportunity. Even if you don't have 110 crore turnover, you still can bid for projects. And third, I will suggest is that get a copy of the Telangana procurement norms, how they do one-on-one contracting with startups, share it with the UP government, and we will also do that, taking it and sharing it with all the states, so that the more and more states become startup friendly.
And you will ensure that our competitive advantage is lost.
No, but seriously, you should just move Telangana. You know, it's very interesting. By the way, I'm not pitching for Telangana. I'm just like building on this. No, you know, it's very interesting. There's a reason that a lot of high-tech startups move to the Bay Area. It's just easier to get going, right? Like, so, especially for you, if let's say government contracts is going to be how you will build your business, because farmers are not going to, I mean, like, maybe they'll pay you, but like every other ag tech company that we funded, man, it's very hard to get paid by farmers for anything. So I think it's a great idea.
Definitely, sir. I will From
Yeah.
I already get a response from sir yesterday.
Actually,
We start looking at flight options, I think, Delhi, Hyderabad.
I just want, I mean, I've come across this problem at multiple places. I think when startups create a startup like yours, you should see the global market. You should not just see the Indian market. And maybe your solution right now is more, when he talks about the ROI, and if he says that in the US and in China you are able to get multiple ROIs. So that's a market you should be, also looking at. So I think that's very important. Many of them restrict themselves to a particular market, and if your solution is mature enough and good enough, you will find investment.
Actually, the problem is this, like lack of fund is one of the reason, because we are not that much fund to put on research. We have to sustain, and on that sustainability part, we have to do a project continuously. On that basis, we are lacking how much money, because we don't have external fund support. Certain support might be funded us, as through that basis we are scaling, but it will take time. But thank you so much, sir, for your suggestion.
Thank you for your question. Someone at the back who started.
Yeah, this is Sunny from Pradigo Global Research. So my question is basically on the foundational LLMs, that basically all the foundational LLMs that we want to build models are actually like Microsoft and all the big companies are controlling that. I just wanted to know from the community that if in case there is some changes to these foundational LLM policies and all, I have built a model for 2 years, built on that foundational LLM, suddenly there is some problem or some change in the policy. My whole model will go for a toss. My whole startup which has worked on these models for 2 years, it will suddenly collapse. So what we can do to safeguard the startups who are working on these foundational LLMs which are not India based? So how we can do to make IndiaAI much stronger based on these, working on these foundational LLMs? Second, my question is looking at the funding, you're talking about the funding winter. Should we go all out, like supposedly we are running a startup, should we put accelerator on the things to move on, or there is some, like people are saying that interest rate in US is at all-time high, there might be some funding crunch in the coming years due to that particular thing, because risk capital may dry out in coming years. So what is the thing of startup funding community on that?
Abhinav to quickly respond to this, and I think we'll have time for 2 more questions.
Yeah, so I think anytime you're building a foundational model, right, there is inherent risk, like you pointed out, right? The industry goes in a completely different direction. Suddenly what you built is not valuable anymore, right? So you've gone from hero to zero, like overnight. One announcement by someone saying, okay, now we're not doing text-based models, multimodality-based models, right, which support voice, like what GPT-4o showed, that's the new way. And everyone's like, oh, now let's start from scratch. So I think there are 2 ways to tackle that problem, right? One is try and build great tech that you can showcase, right? Don't start, if you don't have a lot of funding raised already, then I think trying and building a foundational model is tough. Unless, if, like you talk to Abhishek ji and you get a lot of GPUs access, right? You get that access to build it, then you're not spending too much, right? Then talent is your only cost. Then go ahead and spend it, right? So I think back yourself on the resources that you have first. So then decide, should I build foundational or not? If you can't right now, build, because if you can build, if you have the capability inherently to build a foundational model, that means you have great tech capability in-house, right? Use it to maybe build 1 layer higher, fine-tuned versions of something. Showcase that tech to the world, raise a lot of capital on the back of, wow, these guys, great talent. So if we give them the GPUs and we give them the money, they can build something really phenomenal or pivot along the way as needed. And then go and build that really large model.
Thank you, Chandra. I'm Tarun Vijay from Dehradun. I've worked for the tribals of the Himalayan region for the last 24 years. And the second segment we work is for the children with special abilities. I have found that many of the tribal communities in the Himalayan region are fast forgetting their languages and dialects. We have a couple of such communities in Uttarakhand. They are not using Kumaoni, Garhwali and Hindi even at home. Can we revive their languages? And we want to have a startup in Dehradun in our institute also. Maybe Abhishek can also help us out, or Rajan can guide us. We try to have an Atal Tinkering Lab in our school, in the which we started 24 years, but we are told that they have stopped giving Atal Tinkering anymore, and we have to wait for another couple of years. So we would like to know if we can be helped through AI. Secondly, the children we are working with are especially with special learning disabilities, dyslexic and autistics. can we give new confidence and the new hope for a better life that can make them confident and live on their own, because the parents always feel that, oh God, give me one more day than my child, because I would like to see that he is okay, she's okay. So in these two fields, can there be some solution that you all guys have spoken so well, and you have given me so much of confidence that I haven't seen 1857, I haven't seen 1947, but I am fortunate I am seeing 2024 emergence of a new revolution in India. Thank you so much for your all confidence. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Very important questions. The first one on languages.
Thank you for highlighting this. We have a project called Bhashini, which is ensuring building tools, speech to speech, speech to text, text to teach, and text to text, and also enabling websites, enabling portals, building and releasing APIs for startups to use for all Indian languages. So I will need to check with my colleague Amitabh Nag. I will put in touch, ask him to get in touch with you with regard to whether the Kumauni, Gadwali and other languages are already covered, or at what stage they will be covered. So it can be done. And of course, one initiative that has also been launched by Bhashini is to create data sets in various Indian languages. The Bhashadan portal, the bhashadan.gov.in, wherein if you want to contribute data sets in your language, you can go and contribute there, and that will augment the data set that is available for training various models. He mentioned that on Wikipedia or any other internet resource, the number of data sets available in Indian languages is very, very limited. Like Hindi, still we may have a few thousands of pages on Wikipedia, but we come down to lower, smaller languages like a Bodo or a Santali or a Konkani, the number of data is very limited. So if the languages are vanishing, we need to start identifying who can contribute to the data sets and augment that. On your second question with regard to the specific learning disabilities, it's a classic use case for AI based solutions. So we are in fact in partnership with the Department of Disabilities, we are launching a hackathon for building AI based solutions for helping children with SLDs, whether it's dyslexia or dyscalculia or dysgraphia or autism. For all such for all such startups who have such solutions, some of them already have. In fact, I saw a solution by a company called Cognable, wherein it was using AI to detect autism. So similarly, several startups are working on that, and the hackathon that will be launching for identifying applications that can be scaled up, specific learning disabilities will be a very, very important part of that, and would look forward to learning from you, collaborating with you, so that these solutions can ultimately move on from being pilots or POCs to actually being scaled up and deployed across the country.
Great. I think we are completely out of time. I'm really sorry. The organizers already. Okay.
Only the one I already studying from. I'm really sorry for that. But myself, Shivam Tyagi, I associated with CGS in Gurugram.
Okay.
My question.
I have Mr. Singh's permission for two. So one and two, and that's it. Sorry, you'll have to take it offline.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question is very general one. As we see India as a diversity, where you guys are talking about that also, like so much diversity, so much difficulty. Can we take it as an advantage? Because if we are able to succeed with these 22 plus languages, we have a very wide market open at international level.
I think that's an observation more than a question. I think Rajan and others on the panel did highlight the part on languages, but anything that you would like to add? Can we take
then
the diversity?
It will be completely open market for us, and we have the ability to do things.
Yeah,
and so more than 500 languages and 200 plus countries will be our market where we can play nicely and importantly.
I'll take
your
that
comments, please.
Very quickly. So you are absolutely right. The thing is, the variety that we have in India because of the languages, if we are able to build a multilingual technology based on Gen AI, that can be ported to outside India as well. So that's a fantastic idea. Again, being explored even by us, we have been exploring it. It won't happen on the data set and the models that will be built. It will be on the text side. So if you are able to figure out these architectures, why can't we train all these Arabic languages and European languages? So that can be done. So absolutely yes.
Great. One last
excuse
question,
me,
please.
Just a small one, please, ma'am. It's a small question, if I have the permission.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'd just like to start with saying that.
Just the question.
Yeah. So my question is, how can startups be made towards encouraging DPIs or the digital public infrastructures with the help of government? And how could it be helpful in that regard, I would ask?
Mr. Singh?
Yeah.
One thing that you should access is that there is a portal called apisetu.gov.in, wherein the APIs of most of the DPIs, which are common building blocks that are required for building many solutions, can be used. For example, the DigiLocker APIs, which is used by KIC for most of the fintech companies, and they have cut down the KYC cost by using those APIs. So those APIs you should use. Similarly, there are other APIs that more than 2000 APIs are available there. So depending on what solution you are making, depending on which sector you are working in, whether it's healthcare, agriculture or something, you can go and search for the relevant APIs, use it for leveraging the DPI infrastructure in that. And in case the DPI, the APIs that you are looking for not available, you can make a request for that also. That is one way for doing that.
Okay, final question. Yes.
Thank you everyone for having such a insightful and thought-provoking points. Mr. Rajan, you mentioned 3 crucial points regarding AI researchers and research in India, which are producing, keeping, and bringing AI research back in India. So my question, to cut it short down, is that how we as India are aiming to tackle this problem of keeping the AI minds and to bloom the AI research in India in the next 5 years?
See, the only way we can retain is by ensuring that whatever they are getting elsewhere is made available here. And if you talk to most of the AI minds who are migrating to Stanford or MIT or any other Ivy League university, is because the ecosystem that they get there, the network of faculty, the network of industry, the partnership with the industry that we make. So if we kind of strengthen that partnership, that network, so that our industry, our academia and the researchers work hand in hand, then it will happen. As Rajan told me a little while ago, that we need to build up a Stanford in India. So can IIT Bombay become the Stanford of India? And can IIT Bombay or IIT Delhi or IIT Madras start working with industry and startups in building the solutions? And the second most important thing will be to look at programs like what China does, the 1000 Talents program, in which they pay money for people to come back. Why do people go? Because they get those, we read every year around this time that 1 crore package given by Google or Microsoft. So all our minds are being taken away by they pay money to them. If we start paying them money, people will be here. So both things will work, building the ecosystem and ensuring that we pay the right remuneration for the right minds.
And just to add, I think just looking outside of, I feel that not just the engineering talent, right? I'm a CA myself, so the reason I was a self-taught coder, I realized there's tech capability when I won the TechCrunch Disrupt Hackathon in New York. Went on to make it to the cover of Forbes. I work in the core tech of the company. I feel there's so much talent in India, not just restricted to the tech side, that can actually contribute to the deep tech mission of India. And if we can just get them access to great tech, great GPUs, build great tech out of India, I think the talent will automatically start to flow back.
Great. On that note, thank you very much for being such a wonderful audience, and thank you also to the panel for taking the questions very patiently. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you.
I request all speakers to kindly stay back. We will quickly felicitate all speakers. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, Special Chief Secretary, Information Technology, Electronics and Communication, Government of Telangana. Mr. Raman Ramanathan, First Mission Director, Atal Innovation Mission. Mr. Rajan Anandan, Managing Director, Peak 15 Partners and Surge. Mr. Mayuresh Raut, Co-Founder and Managing Partner, C Fund. Mr. Abhishek Upperwal, Founder and CEO, Socket Labs. Mr. Abhinav Agarwal, Co-Founder and CEO, Fluid AI. Ms. Chandra R. Srikanth, Deputy Executive Director, Money Control. I would also like to request Ms. Chandra R. Srikanth to kindly felicitate Abhishek Singh, sir. Thank you everyone for joining the session. Thank you.